We're live, by the way. Welcome back to the latest episode of formerly known as B6 and Beyond, but you are here now with BM Talks Ball and Corey Webley to discuss Aston Villa. It's been a while, hasn't it, mate? How you doing?
Yeah, not bad, mate. It's not as chirpy as last time, is it?
No, well, obviously things haven't been good for Aston Villa. So, for a bit of context, for those of you that haven't seen us for a while, we haven't done a podcast since just before the Brighton game. So, we're kind of hoping that this is a bit of a positive omen for the Villa in what is coming up into a ridiculously important week for the football club. So before I do get into it, guys, just want to remind you do have an ongoing giveaway for either match tickets or a shirt of your choice. All that you need to do to qualify is hit that subscribe button, and we are getting close to the next giveaway. So don't miss out on that one. And also, why we're here, look, things haven't been great for Villa. We need probably, I would say, at least, 16 points to secure Champions League football. Let's go for a bare minimum of 16 likes on the video, which is quite an easy target, so smash that like button. So I'm not going to dwell on the past. Let's look forward to the future. The first thing we need to speak about is Lille and what to expect this week. And obviously, the positive news coming out is that John McGinn potentially will be in the squad for the Lille game. Jacob Tanswell tweeted that yesterday. And if John McGinn is in the squad for it, it's absolutely massive. Even if he doesn't start, just him being in the dressing room, having an impact off the bench. That being said, he could then be more likely in line to start against Manchester United. Just knowing that McGinn is back, for me, is absolutely massive. Look, obviously we miss Tielemans, which we'll get onto shortly, and we miss Kamara, but we've been lacking a leader, massively lacking a leader. Not one of those players on that football pitch in recent weeks has shown an ounce of leadership. Not, and I genuinely think, and like, correct me if I'm wrong, if you don't agree with me, I believe that is the main reason why we have been seeing so much of Tyrone Mings.
Yeah, I agree with that to a sense. I think when you mention obviously leaders, the first people that come to mind are obviously the likes of John McGinn, the captain, Tyrone Mings, formerly people like Emi Martinez as well. Not so much obviously this year, but those sort of players, a bit more experienced pros, so to speak. People who've done it in the past for us, obviously Yuri Tielemans to a degree as well. Like you say, obviously he's been out injured, but Yuri Tielemans was obviously captain at Leicester. At times, he's one of our captains nominated. So
He's Belgium's captain.
definitely, he was also about he's Belgium's captain. So we're just sort of missing that sort of presence. I think the idea would have been obviously, hopefully, Douglas Luiz coming back, he would have been able to do it. But again, just because he's been at Villa before, he's coming into a new team almost. So it's not as easy as coming into this team and saying, right, well, you're going to be captain. I know it's similar players, but he's still new to this season's team. So it's definitely something we've missed. And John McGinn's obviously the perfect man to have coming back.
Look, if McGinn's fit enough to start on Thursday night, I'd be starting him without a shadow of a doubt. I'd be putting him, telling Leon Bailey, get your ass back down on that bench. I don't want to see you for a while. Put McGinn on the right side of midfield. Even though I know he's, people don't like him potentially out there, but I would rather have McGinn playing as a right-sided player to support Matty Cash defensively and give you that work rate all around, buzzing around like he does, then having someone like a Leon Bailey. And again, I don't want to hammer Leon Bailey and make this an anti-Leon Bailey show because I've said my piece about him. I actually thought he was probably one of our better players against Chelsea, even though we were absolutely dog shit from 95% of that game, other than the first three or 4 minutes or whatever it was. But John McGinn just gives us loads, doesn't he? There's no way we would have put in, even with Tielemans missing, even with Kamara missing, I'm pretty confident if John McGinn was fit for the last God knows how many weeks while we've been terrible, we wouldn't have lost that many games.
No, well, the thing is with McGinn is there's moments where he'll take it upon himself to sort of take control of the game. I mean, we've said it multiple times before in the past. We've actually done podcasts on it this season. In terms of quality of a player, he's not the highest quality. We know that, but in terms of what he brings, like I said, the leadership, the tenacity, the stamina, things like that, that's what he brings in games where, for example, the games against Brentford and Everton when we were 1-0 down, he would have drove us forward. In the games against Chelsea where we went 1-0 up, he would have been that player who sort of drives us forward but keeps that ball up top. He's not going to be a case of taking pop shots from everywhere. Sort of when you want to, he would have kept control of the game. And okay, it would have been maybe a bit slower, but he would have driven forward with the ball.
Actually, I'll tell you where I would start him if he was, when he comes back in until Tielemans is fit. I would start him as a 10. Because, get Buendia out the side, play Sancho off the right, Rodgers off the left, still have Douglas Luiz and Onana, but at least with John McGinn around that central area, you can have someone who's not spineless and a pussy. He's going to put his foot in because I'm sorry, but we have been so easy to play against, so easy to beat, not getting in people's faces, and Douglas Luiz and Amadou Onana, for me, are massively culpable for that. That's what you're kind of expecting from your midfielders. And I'm very disappointed. And again, I don't want to dwell too much on the past, but what we're getting, Douglas Luiz, I kind of expect it because he's not the player who probably was when we got rid of him. There was a reason why we got rid of him. But Amadou Onana, a £50 million midfielder, he does my absolute fruitcaking because when he is good, he is very good. I just find it very, very convenient that he's good when we've got Tielemans and Kamara next to him. He'd be on the shopping block for me, mate, in the summer. I'm not going to lie.
I think the demand just seems to go down a bit. I think, like, obviously, still on the sort of McGinn thing, like, when McGinn's playing, there's someone who's going to sort of bollock these players if they're not doing their job. Like, I think back to, like, the last few games, and I think about the likes of Maatsen, Digne, who haven't had the best games. Matty Cash hasn't exactly had his best of games the last couple of games. And then I look at the players in front of them, Rodgers, Bailey, lazy. As soon as they lose the ball, they're giving up. And then obviously, like you say, Onana and Luiz, at times they're playing against four midfielders. Buendia loses the ball. What does he do? He rolls on the floor, doesn't come back and help. The whole point of why Buendia's in this team instead of Harvey Elliott is because of his work rate, apparently. That Chelsea game, it was a joke. He's on the floor 90% of the first half and then gets himself a yellow card because he's moaning to the referee about stuff that's not fouls. This is where, obviously, when McGinn comes in, if the likes of Rodgers aren't tracking back, if the likes of Leon Bailey aren't tracking back, if someone's not helping out the midfield, McGinn's going to shout at them. McGinn's going to let them know that they're not doing their job. And that's what we've sort of lacked. I don't think Ezri Konsa is that sort of player.
No, he's not.
To have a go at the fans. That's the difference.
I think lack of accountability, isn't it? That's the big thing, I think, for me.
100%. I mean, don't get me wrong, obviously, a lot of it skews down to one man. And I think that's fair. It's fair to say that, especially the last few weeks, Unai's got it wrong too many times.
Oh, 100%.
That's just the facts. And I think some Villa fans don't like to hear it, but it's the truth. The team selections he's playing and things like that, it's playing like he wants to get sacked. I'm not saying we should sack him by any means. That's not what I'm saying. But against Chelsea,
I don't think you're wrong.
No, exactly. Massive game against Chelsea. Thinking, right, okay, we've seen what Tammy can do. We've seen what Sancho can do. We've seen these sort of things. What can we do here? This, that, and the other. You open the same lineup. Okay, Watkins is starting. You expected that. I mean, Watkins is always going to start. Buendia's starting. Okay, well, one of them's got to start. Bailey's starting. It's like you can't have all three of them starting. Sancho, I don't know what's happened, like why he's not getting it. Lindelof's another one. I don't know why he's not playing games.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, especially with Sancho, because even with him playing such limited minutes, every time he's on the football pitch, he's our most creative player. He's the one that's creating chances, and that's not even just by the eye. That's statistically true as well. So it is alarming that he's not getting minutes. I don't know what Emery's not seeing that the fans are seeing, because I think personally, like you say, he's been one of our better players over recent weeks. And you're right about Lindelof as well, because I don't know, offline you made a comment about him being crucial to our match. Was it 12-game winning run? Was it?
Yeah.
He was brilliant. I can't remember if it was 12 or 11 then.
It was 11 in the Prem, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was it. But he was absolutely imperative to that run. Obviously, with Torres and Mings both being injured, and he was fantastic. I remember being away at the West Ham game, and he played that pass into Morgan Rogers, and he was just very, very good. And he's the whole of that run, he was very good. But he just hasn't got a look in as soon as Torres and Mings have been fit, which is understandable because that's not what he was brought in for. But if he's been playing well, why would you bring him out? Let's have
another one.
Yeah, he played it right back, didn't he, against Chelsea in the second half.
He came in the second half, but again, he's had his minutes dropped randomly. It's like, I understand these players like Lindelof and Bogard. Obviously, they've probably been told at the start of the season you'll get minutes, but it won't be you're not going to play every game, sort of thing. But like you say, if they're playing well, why change it, sort of thing? But
yeah, well, we need to have a talk about what to expect this week. And look, we can talk about Aston Villa and how we as a team haven't progressed massively, as in like an 11 since we played Lille. Because if you look at it, I'm just pulling it up now. I did just have it up. The last time that we played Lille, and I know I went through this with you offline, but our 11. Can you guess how many Villa players were in the 11 in that game when we won on penalties that are still at the club in the starting 11?
8, 7.
In the starting lineup of that game, there are still 9 players at the club, and 2 of those are currently injured, which is Tielemans and McGinn. So we could literally name the same back 5 that we played 2 years ago. Which for me is that alarming that we haven't progressed in that way. Martinez, Cash, Consa, Pau Torres, Luca Digne. There's a very strong chance that could be the back 4 or back 4, back 5. The midfield: McGinn, Douglas Luiz, Tielemans, Watkins up top, and then it was Diaby and Zaniolo either side. But you know what's even funnier about that? If you look at the substitutions, who come off the bench? Morgan Rogers and Leon Bailey. So literally, the whole starting 11 could have played, and that's just shows a reason why I'm trying to highlight that. It's just to throw shade at our recruitment team, because since Morgan Rogers signed for Aston Villa Football Club, there has not been one player that has directly come in and impacted the first team from the start, which has to be alarming.
I agree. Yeah, I think there's a lot of
did Onana come in after Rodgers?
Yeah, he was last summer, wasn't he?
Okay, so scratch that back a bit. So Onana, but either way,
Onana's not really broke into the team. Like if Kamara and Tielemans are fit, he doesn't play.
He doesn't play at centre mid, does he? But he would play in a 3 if we play a 3.
Yeah,
but yeah. I just think the recruitment has been very, very questionable, to be honest with you. And like, if we do go and sell Morgan Rogers for a big amount of money in the summer, do you really trust the current recruitment team to get it right? Because I personally don't.
That seems to be the biggest problem. And I think one of the things, obviously we've gone off the tangent a little bit, but one of the sort of things that I've seen going around, which is sort of like the concerns for people, is the players that we're sort of buying in and then getting rid of are players that Unai Emery has supposedly been looking at for years. Like Marlon, he's been touting Marlon for a few years before we signed him. Tammy Abraham's another one where he's been watching him for a few years before we signed him. Kostin Adalkovic springs to mind. We've been watching him for a year or two. Andres Garcia, like we're watching. So it's like if you've watched him for a couple of years, surely
you should have a decent talent idea.
And surely the idea would be if you're going to sign him, you know how you're going to play him.
Yeah, exactly. So the reason, obviously, I wanted to quickly talk about the teams in particular is because when we're talking about the game, look, we haven't progressed as a football team in terms of the 11 and players that can play. Yes, players like Morgan Rogers has developed, but we need to look at Lille because we may have stagnated potentially. You can make that argument. But they have significantly gone backwards. And you look at the players that were in that 11, which we beat, by the way, on penalties. We beat them at Villa Park, but then we lost on their place, beat them on penalties. And you look at the players that were in their 11, which aren't there now. Chevalier, now at PSG. Diakite, I believe the guy, he's a centre-half, isn't he? He's at Bournemouth.
Bournemouth, that's the one.
Yeah, it's the Bournemouth centre-half. And he's decent. Lenny Yoro, Manchester United. Goodmanson, who we've all seen at Leeds, very good left back. Jonathan David isn't ripping up trees, but he's currently obviously at Juventus. So they've got
he's gone to Juventus, the right winger.
Yeah, he didn't start in that game against us.
We got quite lucky that game because I remember speaking to a lot of people. I think I said to you actually,
he was injured with an ankle.
Yeah, that first leg when he came on. That's what changed that first leg because we were in control, weren't we? 2-0 up. Fine. He came on. and ripped us apart for half an hour, and they got that goal back.
Yeah, it's just it's just an interesting one, isn't it? Because we really, really need to get a result this week. Just I think the thing is, everything is doom and gloom around the football club at the moment, and rightfully so. It's been a really tricky period, which it was inevitably going to be when you lose three of your best midfield players. That will impact actually anyone. That will impact Manchester City. That would impact Arsenal, even though when they can make substitutions, they bring on a 40 to 50 million pound player, whereas we bring on, Lamar Bogard from the academy. Now that's no shade at Bogard. That's just the reality of where we're at. So it was always going to be a difficult period, but we're coming into the crunch time now. We're getting McGinn back. We're getting Tielemans back. The squad will near enough be fully fit, apart from obviously Boubacar Kamara, which is the sad one, which we're going to miss. It's now crunch time. It's now time for Aston Villa Football Club to lock in. If we can go into this week, do not lose in Lille. If we don't, or if you do, you make sure you're in the tie for when it comes back to Villa Park, which I don't really want to be talking about, because realistically, I still think we as a football team have more than enough to be going there and getting a result. And realistically, in European football this season, I don't think anyone can question us in the Europa League. We can go there and we can turn Lille over. But talking about it pessimistically, just go there and don't lose. If we can go there and don't lose, or just take a 1 goal loss, bring them back to Villa Park, we win the tie. This weekend against Manchester United, don't lose the game. We have a horrible honking record at Manchester United. If we were to go there and not lose the game, every Villa fan would take that right now. And if you come out this week not losing to Manchester United and through to the next round of the Europa League, suddenly that morale that is currently rock bottom, below the dirt, is that right down here. Bang.
Yeah.
Everything starts to look rosy again. There's been a lot going on at the football club recently, and I've spoke about it quite passionately online about the football club and the way that they've been making remarks towards the fans, the Ezri Konsa incident. It's time to lock in as a football club now. Fans, players, coaching staff, everybody involved with Aston Villa Football Club. We need a siege mentality now from now to the end of the season. We need to replicate that same mentality which saw us get over the line when in Unai Emery's first season, when we were going for the Conference League football. We need everyone involved, not 50% here, 20%. We need everyone at 100% going for it now, and that's my view on it.
100%. I think you're spot on. I think there's been a lot of talk about fans and stuff like that, and we've all obviously had our say and said, listen, we agree. Like, obviously, you've been to more of the games than I have this season. I've been to sort of the European games and that sort of thing. And we've both said that the atmosphere's not been great from the get-go. Even when we're winning the 11 in a row, the atmosphere wasn't great. But that's by the by. For the players and managers to then call it out, fair play to them. That's fair. But then you can't be putting in performances and picking the teams that they've been picking after doing that. The important thing now is, and this is where I slightly disagree with you, Ben, I think against Lille, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but we have to go with a 2-goal cushion for them. Because I think anything less than that, it's going to be a nervy Villa Park. And if anything, if Lille get a goal, with our home form at the moment, fans are going to turn. And that's not to say that Villa fans are poor. The Villa fans are on edge at the moment. They're not a happy bunch. If we come back from Lille 0-0, for example, if we concede the first goal at Villa Park, that's going to turn toxic, and it's not something that we want. I don't
know if it will. Personally, I think at full time, if we go out full time, then potentially. But I think during that game, if we're behind, the fans, I've never known a Villa Park to get toxic like that, like under Unai Emery. If we're behind, the team will get behind the player. The team will get behind the players. The fans will get behind the players. It'll just be if we go out of the Europa League and our season's practically dead in the water, then the fans may turn, and rightfully so with what we've seen over the last few weeks. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I agree with you there personally.
It's difficult to say. I think the reason I sort of say that is obviously you look at Chelsea, for example, 1-0 up early doors. We go off at 2-1. Fans are booing the players off at 2-1 at half time. It may have been that they were booing the referee off. I don't know. Obviously, no one's going to know exactly who they're booing off. But to be booing at half time is mental to consider where we are in the league, that sort of thing. I just think it's like I say, it's not going to be. Villa aren't going to make it as easy as it should be, and that's no disrespect to Lille, but we should be able to go to them, even with the team we've got at the moment, like I say, and put 2-3 past them. We should be able to do that. Whether we do it is different. Yeah, that's the thing. And if we do that, if we can come away from it with a 2-goal lead, let's say like 3-1, 2-0, whatever, you go into Man United on the weekend. Our record at Old Trafford's terrible, but again, it'd be typical classic Villa to go and somehow shithouse a 1-0 win, let's say, do the double over Man United probably for the first time in about 100 years.
Yeah.
And then you go to Villa Park again off the back of 2 solid results with the idea of we are going through to the next round, hopefully, and you just drag them over the line then. And then you can go into that sort of running of easier fixtures, so to speak, with that positive mentality.
Yeah, so looking at their team now, the players that obviously we know and we need to stop. Bentaleb and Andre in the centre of the park. Now, I know they're a bit older, but they both have the ability to, dictate play. They're very good centre midfielders. Andre, I think, scored against us at Villa Park.
Yeah, he scored the header and then missed the ball.
They've still got that right back, Thiago Santos, who we were actually linked to a couple of times. Perrault, left back, and then I don't really recognise the strikers. I know they've got Olivier Giroud off the bench, but they've got that, I think his name Fernandez Pardo, who's done pretty well for them this season. They are currently sat 6th in League One. But personally, I think the standard of that league is pretty shit other than the teams around the top. And realistically, Paris Saint-Germain, despite how ridiculously scintillating their football was last season, this year have been quite hit and miss. And not quite the same level as the team that came to Villa Park that we sadly didn't quite just get past. We should have way too much for these. We should turn them over. It should be in that the key word. So if I had to tell you now, everything on the table, what's your 11?
Martinez in goal. Cash, Konza, Pau Torres, Maatsen, Dougie, Onana. I'm going to base this as if McGinn can't play. Sancho, Rodgers, Harvey Elliott, Tammy.
I'd agree with that,
May as well use Harvey Elliott if we can.
Yeah.
Starters. He's going to be hopefully fresh legs. Can't be any worse than Buendia.
Play him in a 10.
Yeah. I don't mind the idea of Leon Bailey coming on in the second half. Just sort of with a bit of pace and something like that, just to sort of go at him if we need it. But I don't really want him starting. I think Sancho and Rodgers probably need to start. If McGinn is fit, I'd potentially even look at maybe dropping Rodgers just to bring him on as an impact because he looks absolutely dead on his feet.
He'll play every game, mate.
This is the issue, that he will play every game. But it's the same as when we got sort of towards the end of last season. He's getting knackered and you can see it. But
you're not wrong, mate.
He's had the rest, though. He's got a week and a day's rest. Obviously, last time we played was Wednesday. So,
how many times has he training during? I ain't even going to disagree with you. That's exactly the lineup that I would choose as well. 100%. I think people tend to not think about Harvey Elliott. Does Ross Barkley not get a look at in the centre of the park for you?
I always forget about Ross Barkley.
I would. I'd start him over Douglas Luiz personally.
Potentially, I'd either start him over Harvey Elliott or over Douglas Luiz. I think, obviously, I'd like to see Harvey Elliott come in just because, like I say, if we can use him in the Europa League, you may as well. But also at the same time, I think anybody but Buendia in that 10 for me.
Yeah, he's been terrible recently, hasn't he? I don't want to sound like I'm criticising him too much because he's provided us some really good moments this year, and that's what it's been. It's been moments, but it hasn't been consistency, and that's kind of what Buendia's lacked, and that's why ultimately he was his. We've tried to sell him on multiple occasions, and I think when the summer comes around, it will be out one on the chopping block again. But the good thing for us is because he has had somewhat of a decent season, like in periods, there will be a buyer for him this summer.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be the right time to cash in. Did you say Wally Watkins up top or Tammy?
Tammy up front.
It's got to be Tammy, hasn't it? Like
It's such an annoying game because, like I said to you the other week, if you play Tammy, you can almost guarantee he's not playing against Man United, or he's not going to start against Man United. If you play Watkins with the idea of trying to play him into form, there's the off chance. I know it's not happened this season, but there's the off chance that it could happen.
Tammy's going to be chomping at the bit, though, isn't he? He's going to, he started in the last Europa League game, didn't he? Correct me if I'm wrong. No, not the Europa League game because he couldn't because he was cup tied, wasn't he? Him and Douglas Luiz, not cup tied, but they couldn't register him. So it was the cup game that he played, wasn't it? Honestly, it feels like we're so out of sync doing these podcasts.
Yeah, Newcastle he started.
So, right, I think we've spoken about everything, really. I think we've had a good catch-up. It's been a while. We will try and get back into the rhythm of doing these because, honestly, like we've been all over the place. Obviously, you've probably seen on social media. I was in Dubai recently with all that sort of stuff, and I was on holiday brief period in Dublin. Not to make excuses. We probably have had time where we should have probably done some, but just life's been life, and we kind of just been here, there, and everywhere, and this is kind of where we're at now. So we are going to try and get back into the rhythm of making podcasts. And if you do enjoy these podcasts, let us know in the comment section. If there's anything else that you would like us to cover and discuss, let us know again. And if there's anything you don't agree with, let us know again. We will have a good chat with you in the comment section to this video. So final one from me and Corey, as always, up the Villa.